For this project, any category 3 yarn will work, but I used a half a skein of baby burnout sport yarn in baby gray. As for tools, a 4.5 and 5.5 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There's a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount. Watch to the end of the video to learn how to enter this week's giveaway. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they will be as follows: chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and then double crochet. This tutorial is for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're first going to grab our category 3 yarn, make a slip knot, grab our 4.5 millimeter hook, and we're going to start off by doing some measuring. The first measurement that we're going to need to make is from one side of your collarbone to the other side, and keeping in mind that this is going to have a hood, so this is going to need to be a little bit more narrow than usual. So I'm going to go ahead and make a chain of 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters, or that comes out to 35 chains. Now that we have our chain, what we're going to do from here is insert our stitch marker into that last chain that we made. And then once when we have that, we're going to do a little bit more measuring. So from where our stitch marker is, we're going to measure down to the depth of our V-neck that we want. And I've already measured mine out. I want a chain that it comes out to 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters, so that is around 42 chains. And now that we have that portion of our chain all done, we're going to grab a stitch marker, preferably different colored ones, so we know that this is the bottom of the V-neck. We're going to be inserting it into that last loop. And then from here, we're going to measure from the bottom of the V-neck up to where we have our first chain, which is where our collarbone is, which should come out to about the same amount of loops that we just made. So I'm going to make a chain that comes out to another 42 chains, or 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. And now that we have just finished that portion of the chain, we should have a super duper long one, and all we're going to do is slip stitch it into that first chain that we made for ourselves. So what we're first going to do is just run our thumb along one side of our chain, making sure that everything is facing the same direction, just so that it's easier to go into the next row together. And then when you know that it's all facing one direction, go ahead and insert your hook into that first loop that we have into our chain. Now that we've slip stitched our chain, what we're going to do from here is just go in with a row of single crochet, and then when you hit our stitch markers, we're going to be doing increases. So when we are right here, we don't have a stitch marker along this side, but this first loop that we have, we're going to be going in with an increase of 2, and then we'll be inserting our another stitch marker so that everything will be nice and even. So starting this off, we're going to want to make sure that we're going in the direction from collarbone to collarbone, not from collarbone to V-neck. And then into this first loop, we're going to be going in with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then there is 2. And then when you have that, we will be inserting our stitch marker. We're going to be inserting our stitch marker into the single crochet that we have that is going down towards our V. So we're going to have our stitch marker into the first single crochet that we made so far. And then once we have that, go down our chain until we hit our next stitch marker, and then we'll meet each other back to do another increase of 2 and to insert our stitch marker as well. We have just made our way over down to our next stitch marker, and once we reach this one, since this is our other collarbone stitch marker, we're going to be going in with an increase of 2. So go ahead and take out your stitch marker, but don't put it too far because we're going to have to put it back in about 2 seconds. So go ahead and put in 1 single crochet into that loop, and put 1 more single crochet into that same loop. Then when we have those 2 single crochets, we're going to take our stitch marker and then insert it into the second single crochet that we just made for ourselves, or the one that is closest to our point. We're going to insert our stitch marker into there, and then now we're going to go in with a row of single crochets going all the way down until we get to our point right here, and then we're going to be going in with an increase of 3. So I'll meet you guys back once we get down there. So we are back, and we are finally at our point, and we're ready to go in with our increase of 3. So we're going to take this stitch marker out for now, and from here we're going to go in with 1, 2, and then 3 single crochet all into that same loop. Once we have that, we're going to take our stitch marker and we're going to count out 1, 2. The second loop that we have from our hook, insert our stitch marker because that is directly into the middle. Once we have that portion figured out, we're going to work our way up the remainder of our chain, putting 1 single crochet into every loop, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first chain that we made for ourselves. So we've just made our way all the way back up with our row of single crochets, and we don't have any more loops left to go into. So we're actually just going to be slip stitching into this first single crochet that we made for ourselves. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything, and now our first row for our collar is all finished up. What we're going to do from here is just do one more row of single crochets, but we're going to be going in through the back loops for one, and then we're going to be maintaining the increases that we have as well. So I'm just going to do the first one with you guys, and then I'll let you guys do the rest by yourselves. But all we're going to do from here is do a chain up of 1 that helps us work our way up to the next row. And as you guys can see, we have our stitch marker into this next loop. We're going to take this guy out just for now, if we can. And then into that first back loop that we have, we're going to be going in with 2 single crochets. That's going to count as our increase for this section. So we're going to insert into that first back loop, yarn over, pull through, that's a slip stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, that's our first single crochet. And then we're going to be putting 1 more single crochet into that same loop. So insert, single crochet number 2. And once we have that, we should have 2 loops. We're going to be inserting our stitch marker into that first single crochet that we made for ourselves, or the loop that's closest to our point that we have. And then once we have that, we're just going to maintain doing this all the way across. So we're going to be putting back loop single crochets once into every loop until we get to our stitch markers, and then whatever stitch marker we get to, we're going to be doing the same amount of increases. So once we get to this one, which is the other side of our collarbone, I'm going to be going in with 2 single crochets and then inserting my stitch marker into the loop that is closest to our point. Work our way back down with more back loop single crochets. Once we get to this one, which is going to be our point, we're going to do an increase of 3, insert our stitch marker into that second one, and then work our way back up. Once we work our way back up, we're going to connect with a slip stitch, chain up 1 and cut, and then we can start going in with our body. So we are back and we have just made our way all the way around with our collar portion. We did a chain up of 1 and we cut because we don't need to go into this anymore. What we're going to be doing is start to work on the body, and how we're going to do that is start off by making a chain from this middle point down the length of where we want the top to finish, keeping in mind that we will have a bottom border as well. So I have already measured mine out. Mine is going to be a crop top. You guys can lengthen yours if you guys want, but I'm going to start off by making a chain of 22, or that comes out to 6 inches or 18 centimeters. So how we're going to do that is take out the stitch marker that's at the bottom of our point that we have right here, insert our hook, insert our yarn onto our hook, and if it would like to stay on, we're going to pull through. And then I'm going to start off by making my chain of 22, and then I'll meet you guys back once we have that length. Now that we have our chain, what we're going to do from here is block off that last chain, do a chain up of 1, that counts as a single crochet, and then into that loop that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to go in with a single crochet. Let's do 1 single crochet together, insert your hook into that next loop, yarn over, pull through that loop. From there, yarn over, pull through 2, and then that is our single crochet. We're going to keep putting 1 into every loop that we have, going back up our work, leaving the last loop because we are going to be doing an increase of 2 into there together. Now we are back and we have just made our way all the way down with our first row of single crochet, leaving that last loop for us to go into with an increase of 2. So into that last loop, we're going to go in with 1 single crochet and then just 1 more, 2 single crochet. Once when we have that, we're going to slip stitch into the next available loop that we have into our base to close off that first row. And that is the first row. Once when we have this, we're going to slip stitch into that next available loop that we have into our base, flip our work, and then from here we're going to go down with just 1 single crochet into every loop going all the way down. So into every even number row, we're not going to be doing an increase. So how we start this off is just going into that first available loop with a single crochet and continuing putting 1 single crochet into every loop going back down our work. Once we make it to the end, I will be talking to you guys about what we're doing for this solid portion and then how we're going to go about doing that, and then we can move on from there. So we are back and we have just finished up going in with our second row, And this is what things are looking like so far. So what we're going to do from here is maintain doing what we're currently doing. So now that we're at the end, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flipping our work, and then going all the way back up with single crochets. And since we're going up towards the base, or because it's an odd number row, we're going to be increasing into that last loop, slip stitching it into the base. Once we get there, we're going to slip stitch it into the next available loop that we have in the base, and then do a row of single crochet, no increases, going back down. And we're going to keep going back and forth like that for just a little bit, because we want to have a little solid sliver right here that can house our netting for our corset ties. So just from here to where I'm going to end, I'm going to have a total of 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, but we will be meeting each other back so that we can go in with our back loop single crochets so that we have a spot to go in with our netting. So I'm going to do rows 1 through 5. And then into row 6, I'm going to meet you guys back so that we can do back loop single crochets. And then from there, we can start going up with our solid portion that will continue to go up this way at an angle, so that it can help us once when we are ready to go in with the body portion with our up and out look. So I'm going to do my rows 1 through 5, and then I'll meet you guys back so that we can go in with our back loop single crochets. And as I'm working, the last tip that I'm going to mention to you guys is this little chunk that we're working on right here. Like I said before, I'm going to go until I have 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, but this is only going to be half of where our corsets are housed. So in total, I will have a total of 3 inches. So keep that in mind if you guys don't want to make this too big or too small. But other than that, go ahead and keep working your way back up, and then I'll meet you guys back. So we are back, and I now have my 5 rows of my single crochets, and we're ready to go in with our 6, which just so happens to be my row of back loop single crochets, so that we can make loops for ourselves later on when we go in with our nets. So just a really quick tip, I am going to be going in with back loop single crochets, but I'm doing that so that I can match the ribbing that we have in the collar. If yours is reversed, or if you guys ended on the other side, you guys are more than welcome to do front loop single crochets, just whatever you guys need to do in order to make sure that these loops that's on top is available for our nets. But once when we are here, what I'm going to do is go down with a row of back loop single crochets, which is exactly the same pattern, just going into the back loops. So really quickly together, we're going to be inserting our hook in through this back loop with a single crochet. Once when we have that, we're going to go all the way down with back loop single crochets. We're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work once we get to the end, and then we're going to work our way back up with a row of regular single crochets. And then we're going to connect it into the base just like normal. But once when we're going back down for our next row, we're going to do a little bit of decreasing so that we can start working on our up and out prep portion for the body, our solid portion. So I'll meet you guys back once we're done with this next row, which just so happens to be my 7th. All right, so we are back, and we have just finished up going in with the row of single crochet that is right after that row of back loop single crochet that we just went into. And now what we're going to do from here is we're going to start doing a little decline so that this can trace the curve of the collar that we have right here. So I have inserted my stitch marker in through this loop where I want everything to start to decline. So counting from the bottom all the way up to my stitch marker, I have inserted it into the 7th loop, or that is 1 inch or 3 centimeters from the bottom. So once when we get here, we're just going to work all the way back down until we hit the loop that is right before our stitch marker, and then we're going to be doing a decrease into those 2 loops. So go ahead and work your way up to the next row, single crochet back down, and then I'll meet you guys back once we're ready to do our decreases. So we've made our way all the way down, and we are ready to do our decrease. So let's do that together. We're going to insert our hook into that next available loop, yarn over, pull through, and then into that loop right after that. We can go ahead and take out our stitch marker now. Yarn over, pull through. We should have 3 loops on our hook. From here, we're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then once we have that, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then we're going to do another decrease into the first 2 loops into this row as well. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, into the next loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then from here, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every loop going back up our work. But once when we're going up towards our base, we are still going to be maintaining that increase of 2 once we hit that last loop. So go ahead and keep doing that. I'll meet you guys back, and then we can move on from there. So we've made our way back up to the top of this row. We have just 1 loop left, and then we're going to connect into the base. So what we're going to do from here is go in with 1, 2 single crochet, slip stitch into the base to close off that row. Once we have that, we're going to slip stitch into the next available loop that we have into our base, flip our work, and then we're going to do the same thing going all the way back down. And then from here, you guys can pick where you guys want your decreases to be. I'm just going to go all the way down until I have 3 loops left, decrease into the third and the second to last loop. Leaving that last loop, I will not be doing anything into there and then working my way back up. But I'm just going to keep doing that because that is the type of incline that I want to have to work my way up towards our shoulder portion. So I'm just going to work my way all the way down until I have 3 loops left, and then I'll meet you guys back. So we've just made our way all the way down, leaving the last 3 loops because we're going to be doing a decrease into the third and second to last. So what we're going to do is insert, pull through, into the second to last, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And I will be leaving this last one because I want this to decline just a little bit more. So I'm going to do a chain up of 1, flip my work, and then do a decrease into the first 2 loops, work my way back up. And then remember to do the increase into every other row. So working our way up towards our base, we're going to be doing an increase of 2 into that last loop. And I'm going to keep doing this for just a few more rows. I'll meet you guys back in the next clip just to let you guys know how many rows I do it for and what things are looking like. But just keep doing this until this shrinks up to a point where you guys want to just go straight up towards our shoulder from there. So I'll meet you guys back in the next clip. So we are back with the pattern that we were doing this whole time, and this is what I have so far. From this point all the way down to where I ended, I have a total of 20 rows, and that comes out to about 4.5 inches or 12 centimeters. And that's just about right in the middle of this point that we have to our shoulder. And then once we get here, we're going to slow down the little decreases that we have right here. So instead of going into every other row with a decrease, we're going to be decreasing into every third row. And then we're going to keep doing that all the way up until we get to this point right here. But if you guys need to decrease into every fourth or every fifth row, you guys can go ahead and adjust from there as well. So I'm going to get this started with you guys, and then we can move on from there. So now that I'm at this point, you guys can be up here at the base or down here at the bottom like how I am, but all I'm going to do is go into the next 2 rows with single crochets, no increases, no decreases. So we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, pull 1 single crochet into every loop that we have going towards our base or towards the other end, and then flip our work, do that 1 more time. Now that we've made our way down with 2 rows of regular single crochets, now we're going to do another row where we do our increase into here and then decrease into here, but we're still going to be maintaining this set of 7 single crochet or however many you guys have until we get about 1 inch right underneath our collarbone. And then from there, we're going to start to curve it up just a smidge bit more, and then we'll have a little shoulder chunk, and then we'll be all done. So into this next one, we're going to be decreasing into the next 2 loops since we're at the edge. And from here, put 1 single crochet into every loop, leaving that last one. And then we're going to be doing an increase just like how we've been doing. So into this last loop, we're going to go in with 1, 2. And then from there, slip stitch into the base. And then we're going to keep doing that until we get just 1 inch underneath our collarbone. And then I'll meet you guys back. So we are back, and we have gone all the way up until we're just about 1 inch underneath our collarbone. And just to let y'all know, from here all the way to where I ended, I have a total of 35 rows. And now we can start doing just a little bit more of a decrease until we get to our shoulder portion, and then we're going to have a little shoulder chunk that comes off of it. So however much you guys have over here, we're just going to decrease until we have just about 1 inch, and then we're going to maintain that until we get to this next stitch marker and then move our way out. So what I'm going to do is just do a decrease into the end of this row and then also into the end of the next row, just so that we can taper up just a little bit more. And if you guys need to keep going from there, go ahead, and then we can move on from there. So just going into the next row, and we will go into the row after this as well together, we're going to be slip stitching into that next loop. We're going to flip our work, and from here we're going to go all the way down, putting 1 single crochet until we have just 2 loops left, and then we're going to be going in with a decrease. So we have 1, 5, and then we do want this to decrease just a little bit until we have just about 1 inch for our shoulder chunk. So we're going to decrease into those last 2 loops along the outside. Once we have that, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and I will be doing just one more decrease. So insert into those two outside loops with a single crochet decrease. And then from here, put one single crochet into every loop going back up and then attach into the base. And then now that we have our little chunk that is now just 1 inch, we're going to keep going straight just like this until we hit our stitch marker. So we've now made our way all the way up until we got to our stitch marker, and now we're going to need to start working on just a little shoulder chunk, and it's basically going to be the exact same thing that we've been doing. We're just going to extend this out until it comes to a point, and also so that it comes to about 1.5 inches in length, because that's going to be what sits on top of our shoulder right outside of our collar, and then that's pretty much going to be it. So when we get here, what we're going to do is we're in this last loop right here. We're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then from here we should have roughly anywhere from like 4 to 6 loops into this area, since we did want to taper all the way up until we just had 1 inch left. So once we get about here, what we're going to do is just put a single crochet into every loop until we get to the last 2, and then we're going to decrease. And this is going to be up to you guys depending on how many loops you guys have. You guys can decrease into every row or every other row, does not matter, just as long as you guys make your way down to a point. So let's just do this together really quickly. We did our chain up of 1, and then I'm going to put 1 single crochet into every loop until I have just 2 loops left along the outside, which is this bottom portion right here, not where the collar is. So we're going to go in with a decrease of 2, flip our work, and I'm just going to be decreasing into every other row. So from here, just put 1 single crochet into every loop that we have, going back towards our base. And once we have that, we will not be connecting into the base. We're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then single crochet until we have 2 loops left, do a decrease of 2 into those last 2, and then keep doing that until this comes all the way to a point. So we are all back, and we have just finished up going in with this little shoulder chunk that we just made for ourselves. And now we're actually just going to do the same exact thing that we did here, but on the other side. So I'm just going to show you guys where to insert your hook and then how to get this part started. And then I will also meet you guys back right when we're going to do our row of back loop single crochets right here, just to remind you guys that this needs to be here, and then everything else will be exactly the same. So let's get this part started. We're first going to be inserting our hook into this bottom corner because we don't need to be starting off with a chain because we already have that all done. We're going to insert our hook into that loop, pull through, and then from here we're just going to continue on with the same exact pattern that we did all the way over here. So just go up with single crochets and then do that pattern until we get to our 6th row, right before we're about to start our 6th row, so that we can do these back loops together. So we are back, and we've just finished up going in with our second half that we have right here. And we've gone in with rows 1 through 5, and now we're going to go in with our front loop single crochets so that we can match the back loop single crochets that we did over here. And obviously we're going in through the front loops so that we'll have loops to go into for our netting so that it matches this side right here. So going into this next row, we're going to be inserting our hook into that next available loop that we have into our base with a slip stitch, just like normal. We're going to flip our work, and then once we get down here, we're just going to be putting 1 front loop single crochet into every loop that we have. So into this first loop, instead of going in through the back loops like we normally do, just for this one row, we're going to be inserting our hook in through the loop that is closest to us, and then single crochet. Let's do another one together into the front loop that we have into the next available loop, and then single crochet. And I'm just going to do a couple of these and then end up flipping my work over just so we can see that the ribbing that we're doing for our netting is on the same side as the ribbing that we have on the other side. So let's do just a couple more. And then this is it. The ribbing is going to look a little bit differently, but as long as you have some type of ribbing along the front, you guys should be good. And this is what this side looks like when we're going in through the front loops, and this is what the other side looks like. And when we have this, the rest of the pattern is going to be exactly the same that we have on the other side. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll meet you guys back when we have made our way all the way up to this little shoulder chunk that we have, and then we can move on from there. Alrighty, so we are all back with the second half of our front portion all finished up, and now we're going to start going in with our curved portions, and this is going to be kind of simple, but we gotta keep track of everything. So what we're going to do from here is turn our work over, And then now we're going to start working into all of these side loops that we have. So all that is just inserting our 5mm hook into this bottom corner, and then from here, the first row, we're just going to go all the way up with a row of single crochet. And then I will meet you guys back once we get up to this point that we have right here, because we have to talk about doing this little shoulder chunk together. So now that we've just done our row of single crochet going all the way up our work right here, we have gone into this last loop that we have. And just to let you guys know, this doesn't matter, but just to let you guys know, I have a total of 53 single crochets. And then this part is going to be completely up to you. So obviously this little shoulder chunk that we have has a little overhang that is going to hang out right on the outside of our collar. And you guys are going to keep going with this increase that I'm about to show you guys for as long as you guys want this little shoulder chunk to be. I actually don't want mine too long, so I'm just going to be going in with one row of this, but you guys can go with however many rows you guys want. If you guys want to add sleeves, you guys might want to add more. If you guys want to keep it short sleeve like how I am, then don't. But how we are going to do our increases is we're going to do a chain up of 2. From here, we're going to flip our work, and we're going to insert our hook into that second loop from our hook with a back loop slip stitch. And from here on out, we're going to be doing back loop slip stitches into every loop, going all the way back down to the blunt portion of our work. But as we're going down, what we're going to do is start to do a decrease within any one of these little nooks that we have. So this is going to be completely up to you guys. I'm going to be doing my decrease somewhere into here just so that we can have a curve into our work. And then once we get to the bottom, I'm going to do a chain up of 1, going back up with back loop slip stitches. But when I go back up towards the shoulder portion, I will not be doing any decreases, just so that we can keep this at a nice curve instead of at an angle. So I'm going to keep going all the way down until I get right about here. Then I'll meet you guys back so that we can do our decreases together, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm in this little corner, our curved corner that we have right here, and all I'm going to do is do a decrease of 2 back loop slip stitches. So what we're going to do is insert, yarn over, pull through, and then from here we're going to insert. Once we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And then from here, just go all the way down, putting 1 back loop slip stitch, going all the way down till we get to the blunt portion. Once we get down to the bottom, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then work our way all the way back up till we get to the shoulder, and I'll show you guys how far we're going to keep going. So I'm currently on my way down right after we did a little increase for our shoulder chunk, and this is the only increase that I'm going to be doing because I don't want this to expand anymore. So I'm going to go down the rest of this row and then work my way up this row, not doing an increase, just going into that last one, and then I will meet you guys back. But if you guys want this to be longer, then you guys keep going back and forth until you guys get the shoulder chunk size that you guys want, and then we can move on from there, because then we're going to have to start cutting down for our underarm portion. So for this ribbed body portion, I've gone in with my first 3 rows of single crochet and then 2 back loop slip stitches, and then going from the collar to where I ended, this is just about where I want my shoulder chunk to end. So I'm not going to be doing another increase into here. Once when we get here, I'm actually going to start doing decreases so that it can start to prep for our armhole. So we're going to do decreases all the way down, and then we're also going to maintain the decrease that we have right here, but into every other set of 2. So that this can start to work our way down to our side. So how we're going to do that is once we get to the end of this row, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and then flip our work. Once we get here, we're going to be doing a decrease into the first 2 loops. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, insert into the next loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And from here, we're going to maintain this next portion, which is doing back loop slip stitches all the way down until we get to wherever we decide to decrease along this little area right here. Do a decrease, work our way back down. Once we make our way back down to the bottom, we're going to do a chain up of 1, do back loop slip stitches coming all the way up, but leaving the last 3 loops up here so that we can do a decrease, but also skip that last one because we need this to cut in quite dramatically. So I'll meet you guys back once when we go down this row, remembering to do our decrease, working our way back down the rest, and then working our way back up with back loop slip stitches, not doing anything fancy into those. And we're going to leave the last 3 loops, and then I'll meet you guys back. So we are back, and we have made our way all the way back up to our shoulder chunk that we have right here, and we left our last 3 loops. And just to let you guys know, I am on row number 5, and this is where we're going to start cutting in for our armhole. So the way that we're going to start to do that is by doing a decrease into the 3rd and 2nd to last loop, and we're going to skip that last loop once when we get there. So we're going to do a decrease into that 3rd to last loop, pull through, and then also insert into that 2nd to last. From here, we're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on our hook. Once when we have that, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then do a decrease into the first 2 loops that we have right here. So row number 6 for me, or the second row that we have where we're starting to cut for our underarm, we're going to be doing a decrease into those first 2 loops. And then from here, we are working our way down to the blunt portion of our top, but we are not going to be doing a decrease into there. Once we make our way down to the bottom, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then work our way back up, leaving the last 3 loops because we're going to do another decrease into there as well. And then once when we have those 4 loops done, once we have those 4 rows done, we're going to work our way back down, maintaining the same pattern. So into that 4th one, we're going to be doing a decrease. So we'll meet each other back once when we have gone all the way down, made a chain up of 1, came all the way back up, leaving the last 3 loops, and then we'll go on from there. So we have made our way all the way back up, and we have left our last 3 loops. We're going to be doing another decrease into those 2 together, leaving that last loop. Once we have that, we're going to do a chain up of 1, flip our work, and then now that we're going into the 5th row into our portion where we're cutting for our underarm, not the 5th row in total, we're going to do our decrease into this little corner again, and then work our way back down. And then from there, we're going to do slip stitches coming back up, leaving the last 3 loops, decreasing into the 3rd and 2nd to last, doing a chain up of 1, flipping our work, decrease into the first 2 loops, going back down. And then once we have that, do a chain up of 1, work our way back up, leaving the last 3 loops. And then after that, we're going to do a decrease of 2 and then decrease into that middle again. So we're just going to keep going back and forth like that until this portion that you guys can tell is cutting for our armhole is actually long enough to fit underneath our armhole. So go ahead and keep doing that pattern all the way down, and then I'll meet you guys back once we're ready to start working with the portion that goes, or the portion that wraps around our body. Alrighty, so we are all back with this little curve portion that we have, and things are looking really, really cool. But once when we get here, let me show you guys, this is the little underarm portion that I have that is pretty much from the top of my shoulder all the way down to my underarm. And from here, I'm just going to go in with more back loop slip stitches, but we're not going to be doing any increases or decreases, but we're just going to do that so that it can start to wrap around underneath us until it hits mid underarm. And then once we go in with the back, it's going to meet the other half. But yeah, I'm just going to keep going back and forth like that, not doing anything fancy to it. And then I will meet you guys back once we have this side done so I can show you guys what it looks like, and then we can do the other side on our own. But when we're measuring this on ourselves, keep in mind that this will stretch when we wear it. So I'm probably only going to go in with just a couple more rows because from here all the way down to where I ended, I have a total of 18. So maybe 4, maybe 5, but I will meet you guys back to confirm in the next clip. But go ahead and just do that and then we'll be all done. Alright, so we are back with one entire side of our top finished up, and we're going to do the same thing that we did here on the other side. And just to let y'all know, from where I started all the way from where I ended, I have a total of 21 rows. So whatever you guys did here, go ahead and do the same exact thing that you guys did here. Then I'll meet you guys back so that we can do the back portion together. Alrighty, so we are all back doing our second half of our front piece, and now we are all done. Now we're going to go in with the back piece, which is super duper simple, so it should be quick to explain. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to be inserting our hook into the next available loop that we have into the base, which is this loop right here. And then with our 5.5mm hook, we're just going to make a chain that goes from here all the way down to where the bottom of the top is, and I'll let you guys know what chain count that would be in a second. But we're basically just going to go back and forth with back loop slip stitches going all the way across until we reach our next stitch marker. And then we're just going to do a little shoulder chunk right here to match. And then we're going to mimic all of the rows that we have down here, including this little underarm portion. And then we'll be all done. And then we can cut and tie and then do the same thing from here on over. So the amount of chains that we're going to do is actually going to be the same amount of chains, single crochets that we did when we went in with our first single crochet right after we went in with our solid body portion. So as an example, from here all the way up until where I stopped, I had a total of 53 single crochets. So I'm going to be inserting my hook, we can take this guy out now, into the next available loop into our base. And then I'm going to start off by making a chain of 53. And then I'll meet you guys back so that we can get started on the next row. Now that we have our chain, what we're going to do from here is block off that last chain. We're going to do an extra chain up of 1, and then into that loop that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to go in with a slip stitch. And then from here, go ahead and put one slip stitch into every loop that we have going back down our chain, and we're going to connect into the base together once we make our way down there. Alrighty, so we are back and we have just made our way all the way down to our base, putting one slip stitch into every loop that we had in our chain. And we're just going to do this portion together because it's super simple. We're just going to be inserting our hook into the next available loop that we have into our base with a slip stitch to close off that row. Once when we have that, we're going to slip stitch into that next available loop, flip our work, and then go back in with back loop slip stitches going all the way down. And that is basically it. So go ahead and keep doing back loop slip stitches all the way until we don't have any more loops left into our collar portion. Then I'll meet you guys back so that we can do this shoulder chunk and underarm portion as well. Alrighty, so we are all back with our back piece, and this looks a little nuts, but from here we're actually just going to continue going in with back loop slip stitches until we get the same size that we have right here. And I know that we didn't go in with any single crochet, so there's not going to be an exact amount of rows for us to go into, so you guys are basically just going to have to eyeball it. But just going off from what I see, I think I came up here with an extra 5 rows, so I'm going to go in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 because we did do our little increase along the outside as well. So I'm going to keep going for an extra 6 rows. If you guys want to figure out how many rows to go into for this little shoulder chunk portion, you guys are actually going to count from the last row that you guys did for this solid V portion that comes all the way up until you guys stopped. So from here on, I have a total of 5 rows, so that's what I'm going to do, and then also count the amount of rows that you guys added on the end for this extra little chunk that we have out here as well. So I'm going to do my extra rows, and then I'll meet you guys back so that we can do this underarm portion right here. Alright, so we are back again with this extra little, I'll show you guys, shoulder chunk that we have added for ourselves. And if you guys want to just compare, then the front should be around the same size as the back. If it's not the same exact amount of rows, then that is fine. It's just as long as it is close to the same size, we should be alright. But once when we get here, I'm going to leave you guys again, but we're basically just going to do the same thing that we did here and onward. So basically just the same amount of rows that we have right here, and then we're going to maintain the same decreases in the middle and then decreases here all the way until we get to the same amount of rows and the same amount of loops that we have into this first row right here. Once when we have this done, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then end up doing the same thing on the other side, but I'll meet you guys back just to show you guys where to insert your hook. Alright, so we are all back with our back portion, and then just to let you guys know, I did end up having the right amount of loops once we made it to the end, and then I just cut and tied. If you guys are just a few rows off, that is completely fine, but once when we have that, we're going to do the same thing along the other side. So all I'm going to do is just insert my hook in through the bottom where this back loop is right here. And then once when we have that, we're going to do the same exact thing that we did on the other side. So we're going to have that little shoulder chunk of however many rows you guys need. And then we're going to go in with that underarm portion. And then once we have that, we can sew everything in together, do a little bottom border, and then we start working on the hood. So we are back, and we have just made our way all the way down doing the other side of our underarm portion. And we have the correct amount of rows. So now all we're going to do is just seam up the sides together. And as you guys can see, I've already done one side and also this shoulder chunk as well. So we're just going to really quickly run through that. The first thing we're going to want to do is make sure that our work is faced inside out. And by inside out, I mean all of these, not that one, all of these loops that we left for ourselves. That's going to help us go in with our net. We're going to leave that on the inside. So we're going to sandwich the back on top of that. And then from there, we can go in with a row of single crochet, making sure we're going into the front panel and the back panel at the same time. So how we're going to start that is insert our hook into the corner loop that we have into the front panel, and then insert our hook into the corner loop we have in the back panel, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, chain up 1 to secure. Then once we have that, we're going to go through with a single crochet. Let's do the first one together. We're going to insert our hook into the first available loop we have into the front panel, and then into the next available loop we have in the back panel. Once we have that, we're going to single crochet everything together. And go ahead and just keep doing this all the way up until this solid portion that we were just working into doesn't have any more loops left. We're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we're going to do the shoulder really quickly together as well. So we've just made our way all the way up with our row of single crochet, and once when we have that done, now we're just going to go into that shoulder chunk that we have. So I'm going to take out this stitch marker that doesn't need to be there anymore. And then from here, it's basically just going to be the same premise. We're going to be sandwiching our two pieces that we have against each other. But this one, we're not going to have any real loops for us to go into when we're going in through the front solid portion that we made for ourselves. So we're just going to have to try to figure it out as we go along. Just try to make sure that the loops that we're going into are in the same general area as the ones in the back, just to make sure that it doesn't get kind of wonky when you go in with your single crochet. But other than that, go ahead and keep doing this all the way down. And then once you guys make it to the end, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then do the same seams along the side and the shoulder portion on the other side. Alright, so we are back and we have flipped everything right side out, and when we have done that, we're actually about to go in with our bottom border. So the first thing we're going to do is fairly simple. We're just going to go around with a row of single crochet, just so that it's easier for us to go in with our bottom border after that. So what we're going to do is insert our hook into any one of these loops. I like to go in on the side, but that completely does not matter. But what we're going to do is pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And then from here, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into every loop that we have, going all the way around. And this may be a little difficult since we don't have any real loops for us to go into, but just go ahead and try to eyeball it. And then once we make our way all the way around, we're going to slip stitch into this first loop that we have. And then we're going to get started with the length of our band. So we've just made our way all the way around with a row of single crochet. Now we're going to go in with the length of our bottom border. I have already measured mine out, and I'm going to make a chain that comes out to about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. So that comes out to about 8 chains. Now that we have our chain count, what we're going to do from here is block off that last chain. We're going to do a chain up of 2 that counts as a half double crochet. We're going to prepare for a half double. And then into that loop that we blocked off with our thumb, or the third loop from our hook, we're going to go in with a half double crochet. And then once we have that, we're going to go all the way down our chain, putting 1 half double into every loop that we have, and then we'll meet each other back once we reach the base so that we can slip stitch into there together. So we have just gone in with our first row of half double crochets going into the chain, and now we're going to slip stitch into that base. So what we're going to do from here is count up 2 loops into the base. So here's 1, here's 2, slip stitch into that loop. And then once we have that, this first row is closed up. And to work our way up to the next row, we're going to slip stitch up the next 2, flip our work, and then we're going to be going in with more half double crochets, but this is going to be going in through the back loops. So we're going to prepare for a half double, go into that back loop with a half double, and keep doing this all the way down. Once we make it to the end, do a chain up of 2, flip our work, then we're going to work our way back down with more back loop half double crochets, and then we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we just did together. And we're going to keep doing that all the way around until we don't have any more loops left to go into, and then we'll meet each other back so that we can seam up our bottom band together. We're back, and we have just finished up going in with the bottom border, and what we're going to do from here is just seam up the 2 sides that we have together, and then once we have that, we can start working on the rest. So once when we're here, it's going to be the same way we've done everything else. We're going to insert our hook into the first available loop into the front panel, and then into the next available loop we have in the back panel. Once we have that, we are going to single crochet everything closed, and keep doing that all the way down until we don't have any more loops left. Go ahead and do a chain up of 1 and cut. We are back, and we have just finished up going in with our bottom border, and now right before we get started on the hood, we're just going to go around our armhole with a single crochet row, and this is going to be fairly simple, so I'm just going to let you guys have at it. But we're just going to start it off together. We're going to be inserting our hook into any one of these loops. I just like to insert my hook in through where the seam is. We're going to pull through, chain up 1 to secure, and from here just go all the way around with a row of single crochet, and these are going to be a bunch of wonky loops for us to go into, so go ahead and just eyeball it, making sure that you're giving yourself enough room because this does need to stretch just a little bit. But once we make our way all the way around, go ahead and slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made for ourselves, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we've just made our way all the way around our armholes with a row of single crochet on both sides, and now we are ready to start going in with our hood. So I have tried this on, and I figured out where I wanted my hood to start. And starting off where this middle point is, I measured all the way up to about where my collarbone is. So for me, I measured up about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters from the point on both sides of our collar. Or if you guys are counting from the point going all the way up, I have inserted my stitch marker into the 30th loop. And then from there, we're just going to go into the row of double crochet, but we're going to be increasing into every 6th for this first row. So let's get that started together. So we're first going to get started looking at the left side of our top when everything is flipped right side out and facing up towards us. And we're going into the left side because this first row is going to need to be going in through the back loops. You guys can start on the other side, but you guys are going to have to be going in through the front loops, which is doable, but just a little bit more tedious. So when we get here, we're going to take out our stitch marker, insert our hook into that back loop, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through. And then when we have that, we're going to do a chain up of 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. That counts as our first double crochet. So I'm going to be doing 4 more double crochets into the next 4 loops since this counts as 1. So once when we're done, we should have a total of 5. Now that we have our 5 double crochet, we're going to be doing an increase into the 6. So we're going to prepare for a double crochet. And then into that next back loop, we're going to go in with 2 double crochets into that same loop. So there is 1, and then there is 2 into that same loop, which is the 6th one from where we started. And we're going to maintain that pattern going all the way around, just putting 1 double crochet into every loop, and then we're going to be increasing into the 6th until we hit our next stitch marker on this other side, and then I'll meet you guys back. Okay, so we have made our way all the way around with our first row of our hood, and now from here we're just going to go straight up with more rows of this increase that we just did for just a few rows, just until this gets wide enough to fit around our head comfortably to where you guys get the hood size that you want. So I'm going to keep going with an increase of 2 double crochets into every 6th loop for the next few rows. I'll meet you guys back in the next clip so that we can discuss how many rows we have, the height, and then also what we're going to do right after that. So from here, all we're going to do is do a chain up of 3. That counts as our first double crochet. And then into this first loop, we're going to be putting 1 double crochet, 2, we should have 1, 2, 3 since we're counting our chain up of 3, so 3, 4, and then 5. Once we have our 5, we're going to increase into that 6. And we're going to keep doing this all the way down. Once we make it to the end, do a chain up of 3, flip our work, and then make our way back. And I'll meet you guys back once we have just a few rows of this done. So we are back with just a little bit of our hood done. We actually just have 2 rows finished up, but just with these 2 rows are the first rows of our increases. This is the length that I need going all the way around that can fit around my head. And then from here, I'm just going to do a straight shot all the way up with double crochets. So this is going to be fairly simple. Once when you guys reach the length that you guys need so that I can wrap around your head comfortably, go ahead and just do a chain up of 3 and then do double crochets going back and forth until this reaches the height of the hood that you guys need, and then we'll meet each other back so that we can seam it all up together. And then the next clip that's about to come, I'll let you guys know the measurement that I have and also the amount of rows that I did as well. So a couple hours have passed and we have finished up going in with the height of our hood. And just to let you guys know, from where we started down here all the way up until where I ended, I have a total of 22 rows, and then that's also 12 inches or 31 centimeters. And the last thing that we're going to have to do for this section right here is just seam in our hoods together. So how we're going to do that is make sure first that when we go in with our seam, it needs to be on the same side as our other seams. So how we're going to do that is once when our work is faced right side out, we're going to take these 2 corners that we have, we're going to pinch them together, and then we're actually going to reach into the hood and then grab this inside part and then pull it out. And then we're going to take these 2 corners that we're pinching and then just flip them around. And then once we have that, we're going to be single crocheting in through this seam right here. Once when we are done, we're going to chain up 1 and cut, flip it right side out, and then the seam will be on the inside. So let's just get started with the first few single crochets together, and then we'll move on from there. So I have already flipped my work inside out, and we're just going to be going into that first single crochet together. So into the next available loop that we have into the front panel, we're going to insert our hook into there, and then also insert our hook into the panel right after that, and then single crochet. Let's do 1 more. Into the next available loop into the front panel, into the next available loop into the back panel, and then single crochet. We're just going to keep doing this all the way down until we don't have any more loops left to go into. Once we make it to the end, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and then cut. So we have just finished up going in with the seam for our hood, and what we're going to do next is go in with our netting for our little front solid portion right here so that we can weave in our corset tie in the front. But the first thing you guys are going to want to do is try this on and then figure out where you guys want your netting to start. You guys can bring it all the way up, or it can be lower towards the bottom border, but I chose to insert mine right into the middle or into my 13th loop on both sides of our ribbing that we left for ourselves. That's why we left it. And then from here, we're just going to go in with a bunch of netting so that we can tie our stuff in later. So let's just get started on the first one together. If we're taking a look at our work, when it is right side out, we're going to go into the right side first, just because that one's just a smidge bit more complicated. So how we do this is wherever we have inserted our stitch marker, we're going to take a look at the row that is directly on top of it, and there's not going to be any real loops or real indicators for us to go into, so you're just going to have to try to eyeball it. But all we're going to do is just look up about 2 rows. We're going to insert our hook behind those loops, pull through, and then from here we're going to automatically prepare for a half double crochet, and then into that same loop that has our stitch marker in it, we're going to be going in with a half double crochet. So let's do that together. We can take this stitch marker out now, and then we're going to insert our hook with a half double. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, all 3 loops. And then in order to get started on our netting, what we're going to do from here is do a chain up of 1, prepare for a half double, skip one of these loops that we left for ourselves, go into the loop right after that with a half double crochet. We're going to do a chain up of 1, prepare, count out 1 into that second one, and then that is our next half double. And then once we have that, just keep doing this all the way down until we don't have any more of these front loops left to go into, and then we're going to slip stitch it into this little base that we're going to leave, and then we can move on from there. So we are back, and we have just made our way all the way down with our row of netting, and we have slip stitched into one of these loops that we have into our base, kind of the same way that we started off this row as well. Then once we have one of these done, we're going to do the same thing along the other side. We're just going to get that started off together, and then we'll do the rest. So taking a look at the opposite side, it's going to be basically the same thing that we did on this side. We're just going to start it off really quickly. Since we're going into this bottom portion, what we're going to do is look up into the 2 rows right above the last back loop that we have right here. And then we're just going to insert our hook behind there, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through. Once when we get here, we're going to prepare for a half double, and then go into that first back loop that we have with a half double. Once we have that, we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Once we have that, do a chain up of 1, prepare for a half double, skip 1 loop, put a half double into the next, and go ahead and keep doing this all the way until we hit our next stitch marker. Once we reach here, slip stitch it into the second row that we have right above this last back loop that we have. So we are back, and we have just finished up going in with both of our loops that we have, and we have also made a chain that can weave in and out of all of our loops that we had just made for ourselves. And once when we have that, we are actually all done with this piece. The only thing that we have left to do is just to weave in all of our ends. We've woven in our ends, and this is our mega cute corset cropped hoodie all finished. Let me tell you guys, this top was a labor of love. I worked on this for 2 full days and remade it probably 6 times, but I can't tell you guys how much I appreciated the learning experience. Plus, it turned out perfect. And there is a written pattern down below. Use offer code DCDDIY for a discount. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by stating what is your favorite go-to spring trend. Maybe we'll turn it into something. Good luck to everyone who enters. Also, give this video a thumbs up and let us know what you liked about it. But if you didn't, give this video a thumbs down, but let us know how we can improve. And if you love it, be sure to hit that bell so you know when there's new uploads. Be sure to share us on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. Links down below. And if you want to buy this piece or any other piece on the channel, links to our Poshmark, Depop, and Etsy are down there too, along with the tools used. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see y'all in the next one.